Ayy, look, yeah, ayy. I'm in the lab like Dexter, brand new batch he tested. I'm with all the extras, don't try and bitch, I'm pressure. I'm the type to step on steppers, I'm the type to step on steppers, I'm the type to step on steppers, I'm the type to step on steppers.
Try to move on to the AFC East conversation. This is going to be a division very similar to the AFC North, where it's going to be a dogfight from top to bottom. And we'll go ahead and start off with our record predictions.
Okay, at the bottom of this division, I think we might. I hope we all agree on this. Is I got the Patriots here finishing 5-12. When I look at this team, I think Bill Belichick is, he's an excellent defensive coach, and he gives them a relatively good floor on what they're able to do. But offensively, I mean, wide receiver, their skill positions, they are not good. Juju Smith being your wide receiver one, I don't believe that's capable of taking you far. I don't believe in their skill positions on that end. Running back, Ramondre Stevenson solid. They signed Zeke, but they're not world beaters or anything. And so Mac Jones regressed heavily last season, and it's not even just because of play calling. I think that had a part to do with it, but even in his own right, he regressed heavily, and he wasn't great playing inside the pocket, which is supposed to be one of his strengths. And so, when I look at this team, I think defensively they're going to be solid, and they performed really well last season. But I don't believe in Mac Jones' ability at all, and I don't believe in the play calling of Patriots and their skill position. So there's a lot of things going on for this team. And so 5-12 for this roster. The next one is where things get a little bit interesting, and I got the Dolphins going 8-9. This is just because of a multitude of factors. One is because I believe towards the latter half of the season last year, teams started to be able to counter Tua, and they started to figure out those last 4 games of what he's capable of. They've started to adjust to him. He maybe caught him off guard during that season, but even then, I think teams started to adjust towards him. And also the other reason being that I don't trust him Tua's health. You can say if he's healthy, and I just don't believe. I think when someone gets a concussion that many times, I think that really, really, downgrades them. I think there's potential for re-injury for Tua. And even if he does play, I think that there is some regression kicking in for teams and how they'll adjust to this team. I don't think we're going to see as many blown plays as we saw last season for the Dolphins. And also their defense. Bradley Chubb, they traded for him, and he was terrible. He was not good for this team. They have some certain skill positions, but Jalen Ramsey's out till December. I don't believe in this roster. I think defensively they have some positions there, but nothing that's going to, jump out at you. And then, offensively, their offensive line, you'd hope that they produce better, but their run game is still non-existent. I don't know what's going on there. You have Raheem Mostert, Jeff Wilson, whatever they got going on in that backfield. It's not enough. You need a counter for your passing game. You have 2 of the most explosive wide receivers in the NFL, but when defenses adjust to that, you need something to lean on, and I don't believe that their run game is something that they can lean on. And so I got them finishing 8-9. Up next, I have the Jets going 11-6. I think when you look at this team last year, their defense absolutely balled out. Sauce Gardner, unbelievable. All pro defensive rookie, like everything possible that they expected Sauce to be, he was in more. And so there's no question marks about him. You have DJ Reed on the other side, who's as solid as can be. You have Quinnen Williams, who they signed to extension, massively worth it. I mean, the guy's an absolute stud. This defense is a top 5 unit. They're phenomenal. Offensively is where things, last season really, really hurt them. They weren't able to score. They had Zach Wilson at quarterback, Mike White, you had Joe Flacco, and it really hurt their wide receivers. Garrett Wilson, he had a solid rookie season, but he could have had an even better rookie season had he had good quarterback play. And so now you're getting Aaron Rodgers, who I expect him to be better than what he was last season. He has, some decent weapons outside of Garrett Wilson and Mecole Hardman, Alan Lazard. They're not absolutely exceptional wide receivers, but they're decent enough for Aaron Rodgers. And when you have Garrett Wilson there, the connection's already been on display during this preseason. And so I think this team, with their defense, their running game, Breece Hall, he's going to slowly get back into it. They signed Dalvin Cook. I think when you look at this defense, the boost that Aaron Rodgers is going to give this offense, I think they're going to go 11-6. Their offensive line is a question, but overall, I think they can still be solid. At number 1, I got the Buffalo Bills 12-5. I think Josh Allen, of course, there's always going to be question marks as of recently about his play last season, but even then, I think he's still an absolute phenomenal quarterback. This offense with Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis and Dawson Knox, and then you have James Cook, who's going to be assuming that RB1 role. I think that they're going to still be an elite offense, and their defense has been from top tier ever since these last 2 seasons, and they're going to be getting Von Miller back. And so when I look at this team, I think I'm really excited about what they can put out. I think they're going to be, they're going to be a great team again. The playoffs is a whole different bracket and discussion in of itself, but I think regular season wise, I think Josh Allen is enough to guarantee them to 12 wins in this division. So,
yeah, I mean, all three of us, like you said, should be in agreement who's going to be last place in this division. 100% Patriots. They picked up Juju this offseason for their receiver position. I don't think that's going to help them at all. They do got a great, phenomenal running back room, Ramondre Stevenson as your 1 and then Zeke as your 2 to punch it in when you get to the goal line. Fantastic duo, but with the receiving core, and I don't think Mac Jones, I feel like his counterparts, the people that he got drafted with, has left him in the dust. Like, we don't hear about, hey, Mac Jones is going to be this type of guy, or Mac Jones is, this is a year he's going to be, turn into a star or produce. I just don't think he's a fantastic quarterback. I don't think he's a good quarterback. He was blaming the schematics of the offense last year. For him, it doesn't matter for me. I feel like, regardless of what you put him into, what type of scheme that he plays in, I just don't think he produces. Plus, you add the fact that they don't have any type of talented receiver or tight end on that roster. It says a lot. Defensively, I feel like, Patriots, Bill Belichick's a great defensive-minded coach, and he always knows ways to turn up that defense, and he finds gems in that defense every single year, random guys, Jonathan Jackson, J.C. Jackson, he finds a bunch of guys that just fit in at cornerback and safety and D tackle and D lineman, and they perform. So defensively, I don't think that they're going to have an issue on the defensive side of the ball. I feel like, it's going to be an issue on the offensive side of the ball, and I got them sitting here probably 6-11, 5-12. So third, this is a tough one. For me, I feel like these 3 teams here, they all can be interchangeable and everything in this division, but I'm going to throw the Dolphins in here at 9-8. Last year before Tua went down with that concussion injury, they're rolling offensively. It was on hot streaks. They were cooking up. They came back against Baltimore. Tua threw for 455 yards, 6 touchdowns. He was hooping, and we seen what McDaniels was doing with this offense and what he was trying to implicate on this type of offense, and it was working for them until Tua, went down with the concussion injury, and then he might have got another concussion injury again after that when he came back. So for him, the injuries, I feel like the injuries kind of ruined the team. They're going from Bridgewater, and I forgot the third string quarterback they were putting on the field, but even with those guys, they were still fine. They were still, making the close games and barely losing to teams like the Bills and, stuff like that. And I feel like Tua can stay healthy this year. They might break that 10-win barrier. They got a great offense with Hill and Waddle. They got some pieces on the defensive side of the ball. I don't know when Ramsey's going to come back, but he is due to come back this season, and it's going to be fun to see him on the field with them. So, here in second, for me, the second spot, interchangeable. I feel like the Jets are going to be second right here with Aaron Rodgers and, what they're doing with the defensive side of the ball and everything. So, to speak about the Jets, picked up Dalvin Cook this offseason, picked up Aaron Rodgers this offseason. I think that's pretty much it. That's a
Lazard,
Lazard, Nicole Hardman, those type of guys. Randall Cobb. I mean, yeah, they have their number 1 receiver in Garrett Wilson, and they have a talented running back in Brees Hall who's coming back from a torn ACL injury, which, Robert Saleh did come out today saying that he's going to be fully healthy and ready to go week 1. Him and Dalvin Cook are going to be out on the field week 1, and I feel like that's a little dynamic punch they got there. You got Garrett Wilson as your 1, and then Nicole, Randall Cobb, Alan Lazard, a mixture of those 3 on the field at sometimes. And the defense, last year was Zach Wilson as your starting quarterback, and I forgot the other guy again, Mike White as your backup, and him starting a couple games as well. They were going to war. They were going to they were fine. Their defense was fine. There was a lot of close games, especially with those type of quarterbacks, and you're not having Brees Hall for second half of the season. I mean, to end the season 7-10 is crazy. So for me, I got them probably 10-7, 11-6 here, and I feel like they got a great chance to compete. Aaron Rodgers, yeah, I feel like having this new opportunity, him after being on the Packers for how many years long, like this is a little something different for him, and I feel like it's gonna help him a lot. With the new scenery and everything, being in New York and everything, I feel like the guy's vibing and he's ready to play some football. So, and then one in this division, I got the Bills. Pretty sure, you said Von Miller should be back. I know he's probably out the first 4 games. They put him on the PUP list. He's still dealing with that injury from last year. And I feel like last year, without him, their defense fell off big time. And, second half of the season, they're, letting some teams – they ended the season 13-4, if I'm pretty correct, or 14-3. But it was a lot of close games toward the end of the season. And, having Von Miller in that playoff run could be a difference maker, especially when your best player, Josh Allen, is not performing like that and the defense is getting toppled. Having a superstar elite talent like that, Von Miller on the defense can switch a lot. And, Bills are a great season team. I can't say much about them during the season. They perform well. Josh Allen plays like one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Diggs is one of the best receivers, and everybody else they have on the offensive side of the ball just fits in. This year James Cook is going to step up. They drafted Dalton Kincaid. He's another one of the targets. To add to that offensive mercenary that they got. Still got Gabe Davis. So for me, regular season wise, these guys always hoop. So I probably got them going 13-3, 13-4, 14-3.
For me, I of course, the New England Patriots, number 4. I got them finishing with a record of 8-9. Might be being a little bit too generous on that side. I think Bill Belichick is going to do a good enough job at trying to get these guys to that 8-9 win mark. But there's just too many good teams in this division for these guys to compete. They don't necessarily have a lot of skill positions, to help out a guy like Mac Jones. So, they'll finish with the 8-9 record below 500. They'll go back into the draft, back into the free agency market, try to build up this team. But it's going to take some time to rebuild this Patriots team to get back to where they were, during the Tom Brady era. But number 4, no brainer, New England Patriots. Number 3 is where things get tricky over for me. But for me, I have the New York Jets finishing here at the 3 spot with a record of 10-7. I understand they added Aaron Rodgers into this mix. Their defense is elite as it gets. Last year they were competing even when they had Joe Flacco under center, Zach Wilson, Mike White, and they managed to win about 7 games. I'll give them a 3-game improvement with Aaron Rodgers, but just because of how stacked this division is and how tough the AFC is overall, it's just going to be tough for Aaron Rodgers to kind of just hit the ground running with this team and blow everybody out of the water and live up to the hype and the expectations that we'll get to in a little bit. And so, for me, I'll give them 10. I'll give them a record of 10-7. I think they'll be a great team. They'll be a wild card team for sure. They'll be competing for that wild card spot. But for me personally, I can't see them competing with the 2 teams I have above them. But number 2, the Buffalo Bills, I have them finishing with a record of 10-7 as well. Very similar to the New York Jets. They might be that team that gets 11 wins to separate themselves from the Jets. But for the Buffalo Bills last year, I said that this was going to be a team that was going to go all in on being the number 1 team in the AFC. To secure that home field advantage in the postseason, to host the AFC Championship game at their home field. But unfortunately, last year with how their season ended, Josh Allen being the turnover machine that he was, I just think this year they're going to be that team that kind of just chills back and gets the job done when necessary, when needed. But they're not going to have their foot on the gas all season long trying to secure that number 1 seed in the AFC. I think they understand that, regardless of how you cut the cake, these guys have to go through Kansas City to win a Super Bowl or get to a Super Bowl. And it doesn't matter where that game is held at, whether it's at home or whether it's away. They have to just beat Kansas City to get through that, to get to the Super Bowl. But they also have to beat another team along the way in the Bengals, a team they lost to last year in the postseason in the second round. And so they'll still be a great regular season team, though, as you guys have mentioned. I agree with you guys on that. I have no issues with them in the regular season, regardless of what happens in the playoffs. In the regular season, they'll be a very great team. I'm excited to see how James Cook does as a running back 1 in this offense. Now that he's been handed the keys, he can be a dual threat running back for them. He can, take the pressure off Josh Allen rushing wise, and that's another weapon that they can rely on. Hopefully, Gabe Davis takes that leap that everybody expected him to take last year. I'm still not a believer in him, but I think Josh Allen and Diggs will be the very same as they were these last couple of years, just dominating as a quarterback wide receiver duo. But number 1 for me, I have the Miami Dolphins. finishing here with a record of 11-6. I think these three teams is going to be very, very, very close on who comes out on top to win this division. But for me, I have the Miami Dolphins winning. I think what sold me for sure on putting these guys number one is just how good of a team they were last year before Tua suffered all those concussions. I think these guys had everything rolling for them. Coming into last season, everybody had their doubts on Tua. They said things like, well, he doesn't have the arm strength to get guys like Jalen Waller or Tyreek Hill the ball. The year before that, he got these weapons, he wasn't necessarily good. And so everybody had their doubts. Everybody had their question marks on Tua. But those first 3 weeks of the season, Tua came out and he dominated each and every game. Nobody had anything to say about Tua and his play. I mean, the last great game that he had, I mean, he put up 6 touchdowns on Lamar Jackson, coming back down from, I believe it was like a 28-point deficit in that fourth quarter to win him that game on the road, and he had himself a historical game. And like, for me, everybody can have their question marks on Tua. I think he put all of that talk to rest last season. What he put on display after that, after he suffered all of the concussions, I'm not going to use that against him whatsoever, because obviously he suffered a concussion against the Bills. He came back in that very same game, got knocked out a couple weeks after that against Cincinnati, had to sit out a couple games where the Miami Dolphins then struggled. They then went on a 3-game losing streak. He came back. They were able to rip off a lot more wins. The next thing you know, they kind of have a little bit of a decline. They end up losing to games against the Chargers, the Niners, and then, once again, when they have an opportunity to make the playoffs and they're at home against the Green Bay Packers, he suffers another concussion where everything was going well for him in one half. The next half, everything goes to shit. And so, Tua suffering all those concussions played a huge part in the Miami Dolphins' downfall last year. And that's probably the one thing that scares me the most about the Miami Dolphins this year, and me putting them at number one, is just Tua's health. Like, if Tua is able to stay healthy, these guys are going to be able to dominate this division and be a very dominant team. Like, I have no issues about that, but just his health is a major concern. They have all the weapons in the world. Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, he's going to be able to get them the ball. Their running game, I mean, they have Raheem Mostert as their running back 1 right now. The rookie that they have on as a running back 2 right now, Devin Achane, I think he's going to be very solid. He might be able to take over that running back 1 role. But Mike McDaniels has done a hell of a job at getting this team prepared and implementing those schemes that he was running back when he was under Kyle Shanahan a couple of years ago. And he, bringing that offense to the Miami Dolphins and utilizing all of these weapons perfectly. And so, and the defense, if these guys had Jalen Ramsey to start off the season, I would probably give him 1 or 2 more wins for sure. And they'd have this division won by a landslide. But unfortunately, Jalen Ramsey is out until December. And so, it's going to be a little bit of a struggle there defensively. But if these guys are able to hold up, if Tua is able to stay healthy, and they're able to get back Jalen Ramsey in early December to mid-December, these guys are going to be one scary team to deal with, man, because you got Tyreek Hill on one side, you got Jalen Waddle on the other. We all know how dangerous of a receiver Tyreek Hill is, and that opens up the game for a guy like Jalen Waddle. And Tua is going to do his thing. He's going to be able to get those guys the ball whenever they need it and wherever they need it. And so, for me, I have the Miami Dolphins finishing here with a record of 11-6. I just think if Tua is able to stay healthy, they'll be able to do what they did last year in those first 3 weeks before you suffer all those concussions and before everything else went to shit after that. But
record a new hit, then we making us a film. Wouldn't sign a deal if I got a couple mil. Been in the lab, now they throwing out deals. Me and now H, now that's overkill.